What's up, guys? We're back with a big day of MLB action here on Tuesday, April 23rd. Things have looked okay here on Monday in terms of our MLB picks. We hit the Phillies minus 120. That was one of our biggest bets of the day, so that one felt pretty good. We got a little bit unlucky in the under on the Detroit Tigers Tampa Bay Rays game. The over-under on that one was 7.5. There ended up being 8 total runs scored in that game, so that was a tough loss, but we bounced back from that one with a win on the Toronto Kansas City under. That under was 8.5, and that one was good as gold, so we'll definitely take that one. We didn't do too well on that New York Knicks game, guys. We had the Knicks minus 4.5. They ended up needing to make a wild comeback there at the end of the game to only win by 3. So that one was way off. And right now things are not looking too hot for the Denver Nuggets. They're currently getting pretty much just shelled there in the third quarter. So I think that's going to be a loss as well. So diving into just only MLB picks today for this video, guys. If you want to ask me some questions about the NBA, feel free to in the comments down below. But right now we're just going to look at this MLB slate. We've got lots of value out there. I think we can sniff it out. So let's go ahead and dive right in. First though, take a second and hit that like button to show some support for the channel and all the work we're putting in here every single day. If you're new, go ahead and subscribe. It's 100% free and can keep you from missing out on these picks. Our videos are sponsored by StumpTheSpread.com. Click the link in the description to go over there and join our free email list and check out our top confidence plays on all the major sports. I know that I emailed out a free pick on the Cardinals minus 103 today that cashed with the Redbirds getting that 5-3 win. So go ahead, get signed up for that so you don't miss out. Comment below with all the bets you're looking at today and we'll give you our best advice on all of them. We respond to absolutely every single comment, so let us know anything you want to say about my picks, these videos, or anything you see here. As always, our final picks will be in the pinned comment down below. Now let's get into our first game of the day, the Boston Red Sox taking on the Cleveland Guardians. Boston's got to be feeling pretty good right now. They've won 3 in a row. They swept the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are suddenly slumping hard right now. They won the last game of that series 6-1, so that's solid, and they're 13-10 on the season, which for a team that hasn't really been projected to be that great this year, that's not a terrible start to the season. They're handing the ball in this one to Tanner Houck. He's gotten off to a fantastic start. He's 3-1 on the year with a 1.35 ERA, so can't be really expecting much better than that. He's coming off of a complete game outing against the Guardians where he went 9 innings, gave up only 3 hits, and had 9 strikeouts, so gotta be feeling pretty good about that. So much success against the team he's about to go up against. No negatives there, really. The guy's looked great over the course of the season. He's only had 1 bad start this year. He gave up 12 hits and 4 earned runs over 5 2/3 innings. He gave up 7 total runs in that game against the Angels. It was his second start against the Angels, which is kind of a concerning trend for us looking at this game because his first start of the season against the Angels, he went 6 innings, gave up only 4 hits. Then he faced them again 5 days later and got absolutely shelled. So he just did so well against Cleveland only 5 days ago. Is he going to get shelled in this one? Definitely a question that we have to ask, although seems a little bit fluky. Is that really going to happen to this guy twice in a row? Like, you would think if his stuff works one time, it's going to work the next time. So we'll have to see about that. Like we said, he's off to a pretty good start, and the Red Sox have to feel pretty good about how they're hitting the ball right now. They scored 18 runs in that 3-game series against the Pirates, so the Pirates have been a decent pitching team this season, and that many runs over that short of a time period, pretty solid in general. They've been moving up the rankings in terms of how their offenses look stacked up against the rest of the league. They're currently 12th in terms of runs scored with 103. Their team batting average, though, is still pretty weak. They're only batting 228 as a squad. We do see Jarren Duran leading the way. He's only batting 281, though, so we're not exactly going to throw him a parade about that. Tyler O'Neill, he's got 7 home runs, and he's supposed to be activated from the IL ahead of this game here. So we'll see how he looks getting back out there on the field, getting back up to the plate, see if he can continue his very hot start. I don't know, guys. I'm not really hoping for miracles from him. If you're looking to bet Tyler O'Neill to hit a home run in this game, I don't know if I'd be too willing to do that. He's got to be a little bit rusty and coming off of a head injury basically, or a concussion. I don't know. That seems a little sketch to me. So we'll see what he actually does, but we can feel a little bit better about the Boston offense coming into this game. They're going to need to produce some offense going up against the Cleveland Guardians, who have won 4 straight games. They're 16-6 on the season overall. They already had a 4-game series against the Red Sox. They won that series 3-1, although some of those games were pretty competitive. So I don't know. Not going to read quite a ton into that, but they're hitting the ball in this one to Ben Lively. He's gotten off to a kind of middling start. He's 0-1 with a 3.6 ERA, but this is only his second start of the season. He looked decent against the Red Sox in his first outing. He gave up 2 earned runs over 5 innings, only 3 hits, and had 7 strikeouts, so has to feel pretty good about that. Can't feel too bad about taking on the same team that he's already had a lot of success against already this season, and he can feel pretty good about the chances of him getting some solid run support. Cleveland has been one of the best offensive teams in the majors this season. They scored 124 runs. That's good for 3rd in the majors. Their team batting average is 257. That's 6th in the majors. They're basically top 5 or top 10 in every major statistical hitting hitting category. So they are hitting the ball really, really well right now. No negatives really for this team at the moment. Their team slugging percentage is .411. Like, they're hitting the ball hard. They're scoring some runs for sure. Looking at this game, it's pretty interesting. The odds makers are definitely banking here on Houck having another solid performance. The Red Sox are only -104. The Guardians are -105. So this is just a straight up coin flip to them. It's pretty interesting, guys. I don't really know which way to lean here. I'm a little bit nervous about Houck. I'm going to be honest. Like, he got shelled. He did so well against the Angels, then got shelled by the Angels. He did so well against the Red Sox. He ended to get shelled. I don't know. That seems like kind of a tough look. We also feel pretty decent about Ben Lively, like the odds of him having a good outing. He's pitched well in his one outing, and I mean, it was against the Red Sox, so why would we expect anything other than a decent outing from him? Boston's been slightly an under team. They're 12-10-1 to the under, but Cleveland has been a massive over team this season. They're 14-7-1 to the over, so going under kind of feels like a decent spot to me. If you can go under 8.5, there's 8s and 8.5s out there, so it definitely seems like there's some interest in the under. I don't think this is going to be a game I'm going to be on, guys. If I'm on it, though, I'll be on the under. Moving right along, guys, we're looking at the Philadelphia Phillies going on the road to take on the Cincinnati Reds. The Phillies got a 7-0 dominant win in game 1 of this series to get things off on the right foot. They did that without Bryce Harper. He's off, like, having a child born, so he's going to be on the paternity list. I don't think we expect to see him back for this game. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it didn't really matter to us in that one, and it's not going to matter too much to us in this one. The Phillies are just cruising right along. They're 15-8 this season so far. They're handing the ball in this one to Christopher Sanchez. He comes into this game fresh off of a very, very good start against the Colorado Rockies, where he gave up only a single earned run and 6 hits. Had 10 strikeouts in that game over 6 innings of work, and that one went in. That was not a road game. That did not happen at Coors Field. So still, though, a very, very good start. A little bit of a solid little trend here. I mean, the last 2 games, he's lasted at least 6 innings, hasn't given up more than a single earned run. He's had 6 and 10 strikeouts in those 2 outings combined, or respectively, I mean. So just in general, he's looking pretty good. His season stats are a little bit lacking. He hasn't gotten very lucky with run support. He's only 1-2 in terms of his record, but he's got a 2.53 ERA. Definitely something you can work with, especially something you can work with the Phillies, who are hitting the ball very well right now. Their last several games, they've just been raking. They haven't scored less than 7 runs going back 5 games, so they're just hitting the ball extremely well right now. They're going to be top 10 here if they continue this. They're going to end up being one of the best hitting teams in the majors. We'll see how long they can keep this hot hitting up, but I don't really see a ton of reasons that it should slow down, particularly right now. They're just doing a really good job at the plate. They're going to need to keep that going against the Cincinnati Reds, and playing at Cincinnati definitely helps with that offense, but the Reds are hoping they can bounce back from that 7-0 loss in game 1. They're going to be handing the ball in this game to Andrew Abbott. He's gotten off to a very good start to his season. He's 1-2, not obviously the ideal record, but he's got a 2.7 ERA, and when you've been pitching a lot in the Great American Ballpark, there's nothing wrong with that. His last time out, he had a very good start. He gave up only 2 earned runs over 6 innings, only 4 hits and 6 strikeouts in that outing against the Seattle Mariners, but unfortunately, the Reds lost that game 5-1. So not exactly what you're looking for. He dominated in the start before that against the White Sox. So he's had some very good outings this season. He hasn't given up more than 3 runs in any outing. He's been making it deep enough into games. I mean, 7 innings and 6 innings over his last 2 outings. They've got to feel very, very good about that. So we've really got a matchup of 2 starters here who have been a little bit unlucky in terms of like run support, but have been pitching well here to start the season. The Cincinnati Reds offense has been looking pretty decent, as you would kind of expect a team that gets to play in a small ballpark to look. They're 10th in the majors in terms of runs scored. We've seen Elly De La Cruz. He's been one of the most exciting players to watch here in the majors this season. We've seen Spencer Steer get off to a good start hitting the ball. And just in general, this team has looked pretty good in all the major categories except for team batting average. They're 24th in the majors in terms of team batting average, so that's not great, but their team slugging percentage and run scored has them in the top 10. So this is a team we definitely look at to generally produce some offense. Not usually a problem for them. Looking at the numbers for this game, we see it's not quite a coin flip. We see the Phillies are -120 in this game, so there's definitely some optimism that they could have a pretty good one, but we have seen Abbott have success against the Phillies already this season. We have also seen Sanchez do pretty well against the Phillies as well. So looking at the numbers for this game, looking at that over-under, there's some 9s bouncing around out there, guys. We're definitely going to be on the under in this game. I know it's shaping up to be another day of me picking unders, so like don't freak out. We're just selectively looking at these. It's not a big deal. I'm not going to be that crazy under guy who always picks unders, but when you look at the trends on this one, we do see the Phillies are 14-9 to the under. We see the Cincinnati Reds are 13-9 to the over, and this game is being played in the Great American Ballpark, but with both these pitchers having positive trends against this opponent, I think we definitely have to give the under some consideration. I'm also considering the Phillies minus 120 in this game again to get the win here in game 2 of this series. But I think if you're looking for the value on this game, guys, don't kill the messenger here, but I think it's on the under. Cruising right along here, guys, we're looking at the Los Angeles Dodgers going on the road to take on the Washington Nationals. The Dodgers just finished off their series against the New York Mets with a 10-0 win, but they needed that win just to salvage a single win in the series. The Dodgers really aren't off to that hot of a start, which with such a historically huge payroll, you would think would be a little bit perturbing. They're only 13-11 on the season. They're handing the ball in this one to James Paxton. He's gotten off to a great start. He's 2-0 with a 2.81 ERA. He's going to be making his 4th start of the season, and his last time out, honestly, might have been his worst start this year. He gave up 3 earned runs over 5 innings. He only had 1 strikeout, and the dude just did not know where the ball was going. He had 8 walks in that game. Like, it's going to be really, really hard to win a game when you walk 8 batters. Like, they're going to find a way to move those guys around the bases. I do think we have, some reason to expect that he'll figure that out. He only had 1 walk in the start before that, but he did have 5 walks in his opening days, or not opening day, but his first start of the season, where he walked 4 guys against the Giants. So we'll have to see if he can figure out those control issues, but just in general, he's been getting run support, and this big left-hander has been finding a way to get the job done, even pitching himself out of trouble when he needs to. And the Dodgers in general, they're definitely a team that can hit the ball. They've scored the 3rd most runs in the majors this season with 124. Team batting average is 5th in the majors. Team slugging percentage and on-base percentage are also amazing. Like, this is one of the best offensive teams in the majors, and with what they're paying for this roster, they would definitely expect that to be the case. We've seen Mookie Betts get off to a great start. Shohei Ohtani's off to a great start. Like, everything is clicking for this offense. They're hoping it'll keep going here against the Washington Nationals, who come into this game. They've won 3 out of their last 4. They just won a series against the Dodgers. They won that series 2-1, and they won their series against the Houston Astros 2-1. And the Nationals are crawling out of an early hole here. They're now 10-11 on the season, and they're handing the ball in this one to Patrick Corbin, hoping he can get on track here. We have not seen him have a good time lately. He didn't have a good time in his last start, which was against the LA Dodgers. He gave up 9 hits and 5 earned runs over 6 1/3 innings of work, so at least he was able to eat up some innings. But man, 4 walks, he gave up a home run. He did have 5 strikeouts, but if you're gonna have 4 walks, 5 strikeouts is not gonna offset that. His ERA on the season is 8.06. He's 0-3. Like, not a lot of positives. He is a left-handed pitcher, but I don't know, guys. We're not really freaking out about him. I don't really love the way he's throwing the ball right now. But in general, the Nationals have to feel pretty good about how they're hitting the ball. They've scored 6, 5, and 3 runs in their last 3 games, respectively. Their games against the Dodgers, their last win in that series wasn't super high scoring. I mean, they won 2-0, so good for them, but we're not super pumped on how this team looks offensively. They've only scored 80 runs so far this season. That's tied for 25th in the majors. Their team batting average is 18th. Like, they're pretty strictly middle of the road, or honestly, like, below middle of the road in offensive numbers so far this season. So that's definitely something we want to look at in this game. We're also going to take a look here at the numbers. We see the Dodgers are pretty much 2-1 favorites in this one. You can take the Nationals plus 184 if you want to, but I don't really like the spot that they're in this pitching matchup. Don't have a lot of faith here in Patrick Corbin, especially in a matchup that he's already struggled with in his last outing. So looking at this game, I think we're going to take a look at the run line. Taking the Dodgers against the run line doesn't sound super appealing since they're only 10-14 against the run line. And we see Washington is 13-8 to the run line, but I'm also not that interested in taking the Dodgers minus 200. So I think we're going to look at the Dodgers minus 1.5 in this one. If you take them minus 1.5, you can get them at minus 125. So I think we're pretty interested in that. I don't know if it's going to make it as one of our pinned comment plays, but I think there's a decent chance we could see it in there. Just don't forget to check down below. Moving right along here, guys, we got the Detroit Tigers going on the road to take on the Tampa Bay Rays. The Tigers come into this game fresh off of a 7-1 win in game 1 of this series. Detroit is 13-10 on the season, so not the worst start you could imagine, and they're going to be handing the ball in this one to Kenta Maeda. He comes into this game, he has not gotten off to the best start to the season, guys. He's 0-1 with an ERA of over 7.5. Things have been pretty bleak. He has had some good starts, don't get me wrong, but he's had 2 really bad, really short starts that have kind of derailed everything. Against the Texas Rangers, he only lasted 2 2/3 innings. He gave up 6 runs, 5 of them were earned, 7 hits, only 2 strikeouts. He gave up 3 home runs in the game. I mean, like, you are making some pretty big mistakes. You're giving up home run numbers like that. And just in general this season, there's not a lot of positives. I mean, he did have a very good start against the Twins, but in general, we've seen the Tigers lose the last 3 games that he started. Like, not a lot of great things right now, and the Tigers definitely need their pitchers to be having good outings. They did just score 7 runs in their last game and 6 in the game before that, so the bats seem like they're waking up a little bit, but in general, they're still pretty low. They're in the bottom third in the majors in basically every major category. They've only scored 85 runs this season. Their team batting average is only 220. Team on base percentage is below 300, so just not great numbers overall, and they're going to need to bump those up a little bit. I would think going up against the Tampa Bay Rays, they can't be super happy with how things have looked here in the early goings. They're only 12-12 on the season. They are going to need to find a way to stop the bleeding a little bit. They're handing the ball in this one to Ryan Pepio. He comes into this game fresh off of a great start against the Angels where he only gave up a single run and had 7 strikeouts over 6 innings. His season numbers aren't looking amazing. He's only 2-2 with a 4.37 ERA, but he does have 27 strikeouts. He had a game against the Colorado Rockies where he had 11 strikeouts, but he also had a game against the San Francisco Giants where he got touched up for 4 earned runs and 2 home runs over only 5 innings of work. So we're not exactly going to throw this guy a parade, but he has been trending in a positive direction, and he's coming off of a very good start, about to take on a team that has not been hitting the ball particularly well. Looking at the Rays hitting, though, has been not a super pleasant story. They're pretty much middle of the pack in terms of team batting average, but that's where the positive numbers end. They've only scored 93 runs this season. That's 19th in the majors. Their team slugging percentage is around 350, which is not very good, and their team on-base percentage is hovering right there around 300, so not a lot of positives for the Tampa Bay Rays in terms of hitting the ball right now, but looking at the numbers, the odds makers really like the Rays in this one. They're minus 148. They've got a lot of faith here in Pepio, which makes sense to me. He's coming off a pretty good start, and maybe this is more of a case of them not having faith in Maeda because he has not had a good time at all. We're definitely going to be looking at the Rays to win this game straight up at minus 148. It's not exactly a number that we love, but I think there's a very good chance we'll be on the Tampa Bay Rays here. They should have a definite advantage in this matchup, and we don't have a whole lot of positive things to say about Maeda, and we do have some positive trends to look at there for Pepio. So give me the Tampa Bay Rays minus 148 or whatever price you can find in this one. Next up, guys, we're looking at the Oakland A's going on the road to take on the New York Yankees. Like I was kind of hinting at in the last video, I thought the A's, if you were going to play this game, that the A's and that great number, I think they were plus 200 or something like that. I think it was basically 2-1. I thought that was a fairly decent value, and sure enough, even though I was too chicken to bet it, we see the A's come away with that 2-0 win, so put that one on the board for the whoops, I should have bet it column, and we'll go ahead and look here at Game 2 of this series where the A's, who are only 9-14 on the year, are going to be handing the ball to Paul Blackburn. He's gotten off to a fantastic start, guys. He's looked like an absolute monster. He's 2-0 with a 1.08 ERA. Crazy good start to the season. He hasn't exactly faced a super murderer's row of opponents, but he's faced some good teams. I mean, his first start of the year was against the Cleveland Guardians, and he gave up 0 runs on 7 innings, 3 hits, 3 strikeouts. Not a ton of strikeouts guy. He actually struggled with his control a little bit in his most recent outing against the Cardinals, but he only gave up 3 earned runs. So I'd actually say this was his worst start of the year so far, but he helped his team get the win. The A's are 4-0 in games that he has started this season, so have to feel pretty good about that. Just in general, he's looked great this season. The A's bats, on the other hand, have not looked great. They're not quite the worst team. Well, we won't say that yet, but they're not looking great. They've only scored 63 runs over the course of this season. They only scored 2 runs in that win against the Yankees. We saw Aaron Boone get tossed out for something a fan said, so the Yankees are not exactly having a great time right now, but neither are the A's bats. So we're not going to freak out about anything that we've seen immediately, but the A's are only batting 207 on the season. So that's a pretty big concern. Looking at the Yankees, they come into this game fresh off of that super weird game where they lost 2-0. We saw Aaron Boone get tossed. In general, New York can't feel too bad about how they've started. I mean, they're 15-8 on the season. No disaster, no trouble. They just, in the series before the series against the A's right now, they won 2 out of 3 against the Tampa Bay Rays. So they definitely feel good about that. We got Juan Soto hitting the ball extremely well, and they're handing the ball in this one to Marcus Stroman, who's gotten off to a very good start of his own. His last outing against the Blue Jays, he looked very good. He gave up 2 earned runs. He did give up 6 hits and only 5 1/3, so I guess maybe not an amazing start, but only 2 strikeouts. He hasn't really been mowing guys down, but in general, he's kept them in some games. He had a really questionable bad outing against the Marlins. Don't get me wrong about that one, but in general, we've seen him look pretty good this season, so they have to feel decent about handing him the ball. They also have to feel decent about where their offense is at. I mean, it's trending upwards, don't get me wrong. It hasn't been as good as they thought it would be. They've only scored 100 runs this season. They're 17th in the majors in team batting average, but their team on base percentage is very good. They've got guys that are putting together good at bats. I won't say that Aaron Judge is. He's looking pretty not good. But other than that, things are looking pretty positive for this Yankees team, and the odds makers agree with us. We've got the Yankees at minus 200 for this game. The A's are plus 184. Do we think the Rays could pull it off again? Well, guys, I'm not going to say it's impossible. I don't know if we could really play that again. We can't really count on the A's to score any runs. That's the problem here. If they could put together any offense whatsoever, we would definitely like this spot, but we might be looking at the under in this game, a very crazy under. I don't know that I'll necessarily be on it, but we do see the Yankees are a big under team, guys. They're 14-8-1 to the under this season. They scored 0 runs last game. We only saw the A's have a good hitting day for them and only score 2 runs, so under 8, if you can find those 8s that are still out there, you can definitely take those. I mean, there's minus 7.5. I think that's what this will settle at, but if you can get on that under 8, I think it's pretty good. We have a lot of faith here in Paul Blackburn. He's gotten off to an amazing start and is in a little bit of a bounce back spot after a not amazing but pretty good outing. And we see Marcus Stroman. We do worry about him not going super deep into the game, but in general, he's looked very good this year, and he's going up against an A's team that can't hit the ball, so definitely give me a solid look here at the under in this game. Next up, guys, we're looking at the Miami Marlins going on the road to take on the Atlanta Braves. This is kind of a pretty big mismatch, guys. We see the Marlins come into this game. They're only 6-18 overall. They just lost 3-0 to the Braves, and this game is happening like at Atlanta, so not exactly a dream spot here for the Marlins, but this is not exactly going to be a dream season for them. They're handing the ball in this one to Trevor Rogers, who hasn't gotten off to the worst start this season. You can only do so much when your offense isn't putting up any runs. He has already faced the Braves once this year. He gave up 8 hits and 2 earned runs over 5 innings of work, so he was definitely getting touched up. He was able to work himself out of some jams, but just in general, 2 earned runs over 5 innings is not bad. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying like that's bad for this guy, but in general, if you're giving up 8 hits, you're pretty often going to give up more than 2 runs. So we'll just have to see how he's able to fare in this game. I mean, his last outing against the San Francisco Giants was very good. He went 5 2/3 innings, only gave a single earned run on 4 hits, and he had 6 strikeouts and no walks. So he did look good in that one, but he does have a little bit of a negative history this season against the Braves. The Marlins bats in general have not been looking very good. They just got shut out in their last game. They did score 6 runs against the Chicago Cubs in the last game of that series, so I guess that's a small positive for them, but they don't really have anybody that's hitting the ball particularly well here at the beginning of the season. They've only scored 85 runs this year, which makes them 22nd in the league. We already see one of their pitchers ending up on the injury list, so that's not great, but we'll see how that works out. I don't think this team is really trying to compete too much this season. It'll be interesting to see what they do down the stretch or how they juggle this roster at all, but we'll see what goes on. Their team batting average isn't that great. There's just not a lot of positives to report here for the Marlins, and they're going to need some big positives going up against the Atlanta Braves, who are 15-6 on the season, off to a very good start. They've just been killing it lately. Their last game, they did only score 3 runs, so I guess that's not amazing outing for their offense, but in this game, they're going to be handing the ball to Max Fried. He's gotten off to kind of a weird start. He's 1-0 with an ERA of 7.71, so that's not great, but his last time out against the Houston Astros, he looked pretty decent. 5 innings, gave up 7 hits, 3 earned runs, so not exactly an amazing outing, but I think we can feel decent about the direction he's headed, and he's also had a very good outing, probably his best outing of the season, I would say, against the Miami Marlins, where he held them to only a single earned run and 4 hits over 6 1/3 innings, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. That's a pretty solid outing for him, so we can definitely feel good about him, at least in this matchup, if not in the broad scope of oh, he's going to be a great starter for the Braves all season long. I don't even know if that's really what they expect from him. So looking at the Atlanta Braves hitting so far this season, they've gotten off to just a fantastic start. They've scored 125 runs, which has them as 2nd in the majors. Their team batting average is over 280, which is pretty crazy at this point in the season. They're 1st in team slugging percentage, 1st in team on-base percentage. We've seen Orlando Arcia get off to a fantastic start. Marcell Ozuna is just hitting the cover off the ball still, so we have only positive things to say about this Atlanta Braves offense, and the odds makers very, very much agree with us. We see the Braves as monster favorites at minus 235. That's not really what we're going to be looking at in this game, though, guys. Miami is only 8-16 against the run line this season. Atlanta is only 11-10 against the run line, so not exactly an incredible run line team, but given the trends that we've seen from both of these pitchers, we're definitely going to be on the Atlanta Braves minus 1.5. You can get them at minus 115 if you take them minus 1.5, and I think they will comfortably win this game by at least 2 runs. They should put up plenty of hits. I hope that will translate into plenty of runs. You never know how that's going to go, but I think we can definitely project them for a lot of hits here against Trevor Rogers, a guy who's struggled against them already once this season. So given the Atlanta Braves minus 1.5, I think there's a very good chance this ends up as one of our core plays for the day. Moving right along, guys, we're looking at the Chicago White Sox going on the road to take on the Minnesota Twins. The White Sox come to this game fresh off of a 7-0 loss to the Twins, and they've lost 4 in a row now, not having a good season at all, guys. This is like nightmare material here for the Chicago White Sox. They are 3-19 overall. They're handing the ball in this one to Eric Feedy. He comes into this game. He's actually done all you could really expect from a White Sox pitcher this season. He's somehow 1-0. He's got an ERA of 3.10. He's got 19 strikeouts. That's obviously not amazing, but just in general, he's been doing everything he possibly can to put them in positions to win games. His last time out against the Kansas City Royals, a team that's hit the ball kind of okay, he went 5 2/3 innings, gave him only 3 hits, 0 runs. He had 5 strikeouts and 3 walks in that outing, so very, very good. He was kind of in a bounce back spot, and the Royals are a team he's faced twice this season, done well against them both times, but against the Cleveland Guardians in the start before that, he did give up 5 runs in 5 innings. So he hasn't necessarily been lights out this season, but he's done some pretty good work, albeit not against elite offensive competition. But he's not exactly facing elite offensive competition in this one either, so we're not going to freak out about that. Looking at the White Sox bats this season, it is a just absolute worst team in the major situation. They just cannot score any runs. They can't hit the ball. I don't know if they can see the ball. I don't know if they're going up there with bats or not. Like, they are just not doing anything. Their team batting average is 188, guys. They've scored 45 runs this season. They've played 22 games. 22 games. Yeah, this is getting embarrassing. This is terrible. This is just horrifyingly bad offensive team. There's no way around it. Just not good. They've also looked kind of suspect on defense a few different times, like giving teams or giving the internet more like just some like blooper reel material out there. So not a lot of positives to report here for the White Sox, except for Feedy, how he's been pitching. So they're going to need to, I don't know, find some sort of normal kind of form here going up against the Minnesota Twins, who are also not having a good season. They're only 8-13 overall. They have won 2 of their last 3, so I guess maybe they're figuring things out, but we'll have to see. They're handing the ball in this game to Pablo Lopez. He's looked okay this season. He's 1-2 with a 3.97 ERA. He comes into this game, though, fresh off of might be his best start of the season. Is either his last start or his first start of the season were his best outings. He gave up only 1 earned run and 2 hits over 6 innings and had 7 strikeouts against the Baltimore Orioles, so that was a very, very good start. He did struggle this season, though, in his middle starts against the Tigers and against the Cleveland Guardians, getting touched up for 5 and 4 runs in those games respectively. He looked great against the Baltimore Orioles. No way around that. This big right-hander has decent stuff. It's going to be interesting to see how he does in this one. I mean, he's going up against a team that just cannot hit the ball with a boat paddle, so it'll be interesting to see what he does. We're looking at the Twins' offense in general. It's just a small level better than the White Sox. Neither one of these teams can score any runs, and that is a pretty big concern. Like, what can you really expect out of teams that just can't hit the ball? Well, what you can expect is some unders, and that's definitely where we're leaning in this one. We're leaning towards another under, guys. I mean, neither one of these teams can score any runs. Like, how am I supposed to not be leaning towards the under? We see the White Sox are 13-8-1 to the under this season. We see the Twins are 12-8-1 to the under. We see an over-under of 7.5. If it was 7, maybe you guys could talk me out of it, but at 7.5, I don't know, guys. Not expecting anything positive from these bats, and neither one of these pitchers are too shabby, so definitely give me the under in this one. I don't think we'll see hardly any offense in this game, so take this under. I think there's a very good chance this under at least ends up as one of our pinned comment plays. Next up, guys, we got the Houston Astros going on the road to take on the Chicago Cubs. Houston comes into this game. This nightmare season is not turning around. It doesn't look like to me, guys. Things are looking very, very dark. They just lost 2 out of 3 to the Washington Nationals. Now they have to go to Wrigley Field to play a series. Like, this is not turning around. I don't know, man. This is looking pretty bleak. They're handing the game in this one to JP France. He comes into this game 0-2 with a 7.08 ERA. His last time out, though, he did look serviceable against the Atlanta Braves, which are a very good offensive team. So he is coming off of a very good start. So maybe this is the beginning of positive things for him. But he went 5 innings, gave up only 2 earned runs on 4 hits, and had 4 strikeouts. He did give up 2 home runs in that game, though. So let's not we're not gonna throw him a parade. And we did not see the Astros get the win in that game either. They lost 5-4 in 10 innings. We're also looking at the fact that the Astros have lost every single start that France has made this season. So not a lot of positives to find for this starting pitcher for them. And in general, their offense is starting to maybe kind of turn around, or at least that's what it looked like. But then they scored 4 runs and then 0 runs to finish off their series against the Washington Nationals. So not exactly hitting the ball great. We do see Jose Altuve off to a great start, but Other than that, team batting average is very good. Team slugging percentage is good. Team on base percentage is even good, but they're just not finding a way to push those runs across. Maybe some bad luck here, but definitely some poor hitting sprinkled in there. So we'll have to see what they can do in this matchup if they can pull things together. But right now, things not looking great for the Astros. They're going to need to figure out something here going up against the Chicago Cubs, who come into this game fresh off of splitting a 4-game series against Miami Marlins. Cannot feel good about that. That's a team you need to be winning games against. It looks like we're probably in for a very competitive season here in the NL Central. So the Cubs are going to need every single win they can get, and only getting 2 wins in a 4-game series against the Marlins, not what you're looking for. They're handing the ball in this game to Jordan Wicks. He's 0-2 with a 5.29 ERA, so they're hoping he can kind of turn things around. But there's a case to be made that he already is, because he had a good outing against the Arizona Diamondbacks his last time out. They've been a very solid hitting team this season. He gave up only 2 earned runs over 4 1/3 innings, so a good start, not necessarily a shutdown start, but for this guy, I think the Cubs will take it. He did have 5 strikeouts and only a single walk on that one, so that's pretty positive. He hasn't been going super deep into games, like he hasn't made it past 4 2/3 innings, so we'll have to see. I'm not like holding my breath, but it's been an Astros team that hasn't been hitting the ball super well, so we'll just see what he can do out there on the mound. He's not a guy I have a ton of faith in, but I'm starting to have a little bit less faith right now actually in the Cubs bats, because man, things not looking super hot against the Miami Marlins. I mean, they did score 3, 5, 2, and 8 runs against the Marlins in that series, so not fantastic numbers, not the hitting the cover off the ball type of numbers, although we have seen some Marlins pitchers have some good outings, so I don't know. Hard to tell really what to expect right now from them, but they are 6th in the majors in terms of runs scored, so not awful. They're 12th in the majors in terms of team batting average, so that's starting to get a little concerning, but they're batting around 250 as a team, so that's not awful. And their slugging percentage is very good. So is their on-base percentage, hovering around 330, so I think we can expect to see some positive things in general from the Cubs offense. Looking at this game, we see the odds makers, they like the Astros in this one, actually. We see Houston is minus 120 in this one. I think that's more of an indictment here of Jordan Wicks, who hasn't looked very good, as opposed to like in huge endorsement of JP France. Looking at the over-under for this game, we see it's at 10. So nobody's really rooting for there to be low offense in this game. We have seen Houston be an under team so far this season. They're 13, 8, and 2 to the under, but in this game, just in general, I think we're looking at the Houston Astros minus 120 as probably our lean. I don't have a great read on this game in general. I don't know what to expect really from either starting pitcher, so that makes me pretty nervous. I don't think we're going to be betting this game ourselves. I see a very low chance it'll end up here in our pinned comment plays, but if you're wanting to bet this one, I think I lean slightly towards the Houston Astros minus 120, but yeah, I don't know. Kind of seems like a pick your own nightmare situation in this one. Next up, guys, we got the Toronto Blue Jays going on the road to take on the Kansas City Royals. We see Toronto got the win in game 1 of this series, and they've really kind of been cruising along here. They've won 3 out of the last 4. They're up to 13-10 on the season, and they have to feel pretty good about that. We just saw a very solid Kikuchi outing, so things looking pretty decent here for the Toronto Blue Jays. They're handing the ball in this one to Kevin Guzman. He comes into this game. He's 0-2 with an 8.16 ERA, but he had a very solid outing. This seems like a trend, guys. We're seeing a lot of pitchers who have struggled this year coming off of solid outings. He did well against the Yankees. He gave only a single earned run over 4 hits over 5 innings of work. 6 strikeouts, 3 walks in his last outing, so all of that pretty solid. A good bounce back from getting absolutely shelled by the Colorado Rockies, so I think we can expect him to kind of continue this positive trend here, or at least there's reason to hope that he will. The Blue Jays bats in general have gotten off to a kind of middling start, although they've been warming up slightly. They only scored 5 runs in game 1 of this series, so I mean 5 runs is good, don't get me wrong. I'm not like saying, oh, 5 runs, terrible offensive outing, but they haven't been doing that consistently. We've seen Justin Turner get off to a good start, but there are definitely more bats on this roster that need to wake up and just have not done that so far. They're 86 runs scored this season in total, has them only 21st in the majors. That's not where this team is hoping to be. 21st in the majors in terms of team batting average. So just in general, not hitting the ball the way they've hoped to, but they've done well enough against the Kansas City Royals here to get the win in game 1. The Royals are coming to this game. They're 13-10 overall. They've now lost 3 straight and 4 of 5 overall. So that's not great for a team who got off to a kind of surprising positive start. Seems like they might not really have the legs to keep that going. They're going to be handing the ball in this one to Michael Wacha, the former Cardinal. Big right-handed pitcher, 6'6" guy. He's an absolute monster out there on the mound. He's coming off a great start albeit against the Chicago White Sox. He went 6 innings, gave up 2 earned runs and 4 strikeouts, so not too terrible, but we do notice it's a little bit concerning. The Royals have lost 3 out of the 4 games that he started. The only win they got with him on the mound was when he pitched 7 innings of 2-hit ball and had 8 strikeouts against the Chicago White Sox. So in general, his numbers this season, not bad. 1-2 with a 3.75 ERA, and he's looked good, albeit against some kind of weak opposition. He did get shelled by the New York Mets in one outing, which is kind of messing up his numbers, but I don't know, guys. It's tough to know what to expect from Waka here. He hasn't been a super consistent guy over the course of his career, and the Royals' offense hasn't necessarily been super consistent either. They got shut out by the Orioles in their last game of that series, and they only scored 3 against the Toronto Blue Jays in this one, so not great. They are 11th in the majors in terms of run score with 108. The team batting average isn't looking terrible. Team slugging percentage is very, very good, but their team on-base percentage is only around 300, so that's got them in 20th in the majors, so not fantastic. Looking at the numbers for this game, we see the Blue Jays are kind of significant favorites. They're minus 120 in this one, and I mean, I guess that's just a symptom of like not having a ton of faith in the Royals bats. I mean, they are playing at home in this game. I think we like Waka a decent amount, so in this game, I'm definitely trending towards taking the Royals plus 115 in this one. I don't think we're necessarily going to see a ton of offense. Both of these teams tend towards the under, and if we're expecting to see a good start from Guzman, I mean, the under is a little appealing also, so my leans in this one, I'm not sure which one we'll actually be taking, so I'll put them both up there, but I like the Royals plus 115. I also like the under 8.5. We see Toronto 13-10 to the under this season. Kansas City 14-8-1 to the under. They're one of the best under teams in the majors, so definitely take a look at that under, and definitely can take a look here at Kansas City playing at home. Next up, guys, we got the Seattle Mariners going on the road to take on the Texas Rangers. We saw Seattle win their series against the Colorado Rockies. They've been figuring things out lately. They've won 5 out of the last 6 overall to get back to 500 on the season. They're 11-11, and they're taking on the team that's currently in first place in the AL West. We see the Mariners are handing the ball in this one to Logan Gilbert. He comes to this game 1-0 on the season with a 2.33 ERA, so the guy's been absolutely dealing so far this season. He's had 2 games where he's went at least 7 innings. His last time out, he went 6 2/3 against the Cincinnati Reds. He gave only a single run on 3 hits and had 6 strikeouts in that one. He's been absolutely just mowing guys down. Over his 4 starts this season overall, he's got 29 strikeouts, so the guy is just looking fantastic out there. He's a big right-hander, he's got good stuff, and he is showing it. The Mariners in general, though, their bats haven't been great this season overall, but they did just score 10, 7, and 2 runs in their series against the Rockies, or actually 10, 7, and 1, but just in general, hitting the ball a little bit better here. Here we see the Mariners, they're only 24th in the majors in terms of runs scored, 22nd in team batting average. Julio Rodriguez has gotten off to a pretty decent start. Cal Raleigh is off to a decent start too. He's got 5 home runs, but nothing really to write home about for this offense, except for the fact they're just coming off of a 10-run outburst, and they're about to be taking on a division rival. So looking here at the Texas Rangers, they come into this game, they're 12-11 on the season. They only got 1 win in their 3-game series against the Atlanta Braves, which the Braves are one of the best teams in baseball so far, so I guess there's nothing to be ashamed of there. They're handing the ball in this one to Dane Dunning. He's 2-1 with a 3.91 ERA, and he's coming off of a very good start against the Detroit Tigers, where he gave up only 2 runs on 5 innings of work. He gave up 5 strikeouts and 4 walks, so those walks are a bit of a concern for him. He's walked at least 2 batters in every outing this season so far, and there's been 2 different times he's walked at least 4. I don't know, guys. That seems like a trend to me. The guy has a little bit of a control problem, but in general, he hasn't looked bad. His last couple starts have been, I would say, quality starts pretty much. So we'll look at him as like a decent pitching option here. And the Texas Rangers offense in general has been pretty good. I mean, they only scored 2 runs in one of those games against the Braves and 3 in the other game, but they did score 6 runs their last time out. They scored 114 runs this season overall, which has them tied for 8th in the majors. They're 7th in the majors in team batting average, so that's pretty decent. Team on base percentage and slugging percentage are also looking reasonable. We see Garcia is off to a very good start hitting the ball. He's got 6 home runs. He's still batting .326, and he has 22 RBIs, so they definitely have some firepower there hitting the ball, and it'll be interesting to see how Logan Gilbert can deal with that, as he's been pitching really well this season in general. Looking at the numbers for this game, we see the Rangers are plus 100. The Seattle Mariners are minus 106. I don't know, guys. This seems like a little bit of a tough spot. I definitely have more faith in the Mariners pitching. I definitely have more faith in the Rangers bats. So that makes things a little bit tough. They haven't really played each other this season so far. So We'll have to see how these two teams feel each other out. I am definitely leaning towards the Mariners minus 106 in this one. I think they have the advantage here in the pitching matchup, and that'll be enough. I'm not super interested in this over-under number, although Seattle is a big under team, and the number's 9, so we could see both of these guys have solid outings, but I think the Rangers have plenty of offense, so yeah, I'm a little bit scared away from the over-under in this one, so give me Seattle minus 106. I don't know if this will end up in our pinned comment, but I think the Mariners are in a decent spot in this one, and they're playing really well right now. That's all the games we have for today, guys. Hit that like button for good luck on all your bets, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Let me know in the comments any questions you have on today's slate or on the NBA slate tonight. Thanks for watching. You can click the link in the description and check out stumpthespread.com, and we'll see you guys tomorrow for more sports betting action.